Welcome to 502 Entrepreneurs, Louisville's podcast featuring local business owners, entrepreneurs, and side hustlers, all who have a story to tell. I am your host, Carl Armijo, owner and operator of Carl Armijo Photography and Louisville Cleaning Pros. Our guest today is Paul Cox, owner of TeamLogic IT Louisville, who shares with us how responsiveness, calmness, and honesty go a long way in client relationships. Paul, thanks for joining us on 502 Entrepreneurs today. It's great to have you here in the studio.
Absolutely excited to be here. So looking forward to chatting with you. Like you and I have chatted a lot, like kind of over time, but it's nice to go and like share this with like some other folks. So,
absolutely. And you're in like one of those fields I feel like is like real, I don't know what the word, mysterious to people sometimes, especially if they're not involved in it. You know,
misunderstood.
Misunderstood. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Mysterious, misunderstood, however you want to say it. So I think it's great to get you in here. You can kind of explain to folks kind of what you do, how you do it, why you're doing it, you know, all that fun stuff. You know, you have a very interesting background too. I think that people might want to learn more about too. So, you know, love to hear more about it. So you're TeamLogic IT Louisville, is that correct?
That is correct. So so it's a national franchise. There are 300 and something locations across the U.S. 320, right? It kind of waxes and wanes depending on the month. But yeah, 320 locations across the U.S. Largest IT services franchise that I'm aware of. So kind of covering the nation, and it's a wonderful experience. I'm sure we will drill into, but yeah, we do outsourced IT, small and medium-sized businesses where they need that partial IT help, but it's partial. They just don't have the overhead. They can't afford the full-time person, right? And so they're large enough where it's like, this is a problem. We need some help, like periodically. And so that's that space where we step in, right? So anywhere from 10 to 50 employee kind of companies where it's like, I need that expertise, but I don't want to insource yet.
Right.
So,
So they're using tech. They're heavily involved in IT stuff, but they're just not big enough where hiring somebody full time makes sense.
Doesn't make sense.
Right.
Doesn't make sense yet.
So that's where you step in.
Yes.
Cool. So how did you find this franchise? What made you decide you wanted to go the franchise route versus maybe starting, IT services yourself? What was the draw there?
So a little bit of the way it started was that, my Louisville history. So my dad was the head of public relations, advertising, and franchise relations at Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Okay.
In the 70s.
70s, okay. Back when they were Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Yeah, and nobody else. No Yum brand,
right.
None of that. Right? So I got to learn a little bit at a young age. I believe I was still in elementary school about how, franchise stuff is done and, dealing with, that kind of an environment. Fast forward to, just a few years ago, and looking at opportunities, looking at, going and starting my own business. And I was very lucky in the fact that my eldest brother had a franchise with Paul Davis Restoration.
Okay.
And so he'd done that for about a decade. He, sold his business. So, and one of the things I figured out a little bit after the fact is that if you want to go pursue a franchise route, having someone who's been through that experience before, it's not just being an entrepreneur, it's going that particular route, having a little bit of expertise in your back corner about what that road looks like is immeasurable, right, to your success. Because there's a lot of franchisees who open up operations, they get promised the sun, the moon, and the stars, right? But then they go open and there's a lot of expectations. It's not quite what they thought. And so they run into a problem. And so I was very blessed, very lucky in that I had someone in my corner who was asking me, well, what about the franchise fee? What about this? What about that? And so that was a wonderful entree into going and opening my own franchise. So.
Yeah. Cause like a franchise will say, hey, we're going to provide you this kind of marketing support. We're going to give you this bell, this whistle. And they do, but the reality is you still have to go out there and do the work and find the work yourself.
It's still on you. Like it is, you still own the business. And oh, by the way, like this is one of the things that a lot of people are shocked and stunned to learn is that when you open a franchise, like you've signed an agreement for, 10 years or whatever it is, where you are in essence renting the brand name, renting the IP and the marketing to, go and open this business, but you're locked in, right? And there is, well, what if it's not going well? How do I get out of it?
Right.
Oh, no. No. You still owe us for these next 8 whatever years, right? And so going into it with your eyes open was extraordinarily helpful in going into this space. Right. So, yeah, and it's a knowing what you're walking into, the pluses and minuses. They handle a lot of stuff that I really don't want to, all right? And I just don't have time to and everything else. So the franchise model is really good as long as you are going into it with your eyes open about what you're getting yourself into.
Yeah, that makes sense. And having a family member who's done it before, I can see how that's a huge asset to getting started and seeing the unforeseen that you don't know what you don't know. And if you've had somebody experience that, they can kind of guide you through that, especially somebody who's not involved with that same franchise.
Yes.
They know what to look for, what the pitfalls are and that kind of thing. So what made you decide to go the IT route? Because, it looks like from what I know and from the conversations we've had, your background is pretty heavily involved in IT as it is. So it's what you know, right? So that's kind of why you went that route with the franchise. Is that right?
Partly. So the expertise that I kind of bring is the business development, going and winning the work, bringing the stuff into the door, right? Going and then handing it off to the performers, right? And so there's a familiar sort of feel to that. But from my own background, doing a lot of, national security related work over a long period of time, there was a piece I felt I was missing a little bit. So a lot of the modern threats are focused on, cybersecurity and, threats to, critical infrastructure and those kinds of things. So there was a little bit of a gap in my own experience. And I was like, I know physical stuff, I know transnational crime, I know a lot of other areas, but one of the gaps I felt I needed to fill just from my own experience was managing or controlling the cybersecurity threats with a small business. So that was what kind of brought me into the door, only to realize later on that's not actually what businesses buy.
Mm, sure.
And that was a little bit of a, oh, whoops. And what I realized sort of later on, and it made sense once I started transition myself into fixing my mindset. And it is a problem within the cybersecurity community writ large, which is that, so if you're dealing with cybersecurity within the federal government at a high level, that is the mission. Right. It is protecting critical infrastructure. It's protecting the interests, the citizens, the lives of, people in the United States. When it comes to a business, name a business, right? You're doing, you're doing accounting, you're doing, other sorts of things. Like your main job every day as a business owner is not protecting the interests of the United States.
Yeah.
Right? You're trying to go like make payroll. You're trying to go like make stuff happen at the end of every month and ensure your profitability. And so the real trick with IT stuff when you're doing the kind of stuff that I do is ensuring uptime.
Yeah, because downtime is what kills a business.
Downtime is what kills a business. So the stuff that owners care about is like, yeah, I get all the threats, blah, 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 blah. Like, when am I going to be back up? Right? Because what they really want to know, especially as you get to like kind of the larger companies, like 10, 20, 30 companies, right? They want guaranteed uptime. One of the favorite statistics I ran across was that an average employee in the U.S. spends 90 hours a year troubleshooting an IT issue.
Oh, wow. That's big.
Right. It's more than vacation.
Yeah.
No wonder they need to take vacation.
Sure.
That's a giant, and they're not trained for it.
And troubleshooting IT is the worst.
It's the worst.
If you don't know what you're doing.
You don't know what you're doing, right? And so you really want to, can I get someone to just come in and deal with this so they can go fix it and go back to work so that you're not wasting an hour of your time. You've handed it off to someone else. You've gone and gotten yourself a cup of coffee, right? You've talked to a couple of folks. You've come back, right, a few minutes later, and it's fixed.
Yeah. So when we're talking uptime, my mind goes to, like, say when X or Twitter goes down, now that platform is down, for the entire nation, which is a huge problem. And I imagine it's something similar for smaller businesses, but maybe it's not their website, but maybe it's their internal communications or the software, the platforms that they're using to run their business themselves. Is that right? Or is it their phones? Like, what are we talking about when we're saying uptime?
Something's not syncing. Something's not working, right? So a lot of small businesses are reliant on third-party services. They're reliant on their own computer systems. They are reliant on their network, right? And there's a lot of complexity involved with it, right? So you've got to connect to a network. You've got to have your IT systems that are communicating back and forth. Right, you've got your email system, right? And so there's a lot of synchronization going on behind the scenes that everyone will promise you is seamless.
Right.
Until it's not. And so that's like, and one of my favorite things I learned was that when a small business comes to you and the cuss words are streaming about like, God, F it, like I need this, right? That's the business opportunity because they don't want to deal with it. They want to get their stuff up and running. They want to get their staff up and running because they're losing revenue generation hours
right
in the course of the day.
Sure.
Right. And so there's a couple like things I figured out over time is that it's the speed of response. It's the speed of like jumping on the problem. Like, we got this, we got you, right? We're working the issue. And it goes to like one of the key things. And there's this wonderful issue with a lot of the other IT managed service providers, those who provide these kinds of services, is they're just not as good with the communications about like, okay, you've opened a ticket. Yeah, you got a problem. Right? And then it's like radio silence.
Right. Yeah.
For like a day and a half. Right. And so there's a huge opportunity to differentiate yourself about like speed of response. And as I've found that when you have a staff that cares, when you have a staff that jumps on the problem, they may not be able to solve it right away. They're handling other issues with their other clients. But if you at least let the client know there's a human being on the other side that has heard your problem and they're looking into it now, is huge.
That is, I think, in business in general, in my experience with my photography company and, just in, talking with other business owners and things like that, communication is really lacking in a lot of places. And the more upfront you could be with a customer, the more honest you are, the more timely you are in that communication. Usually the more forgiving they are, the more appreciative they are,
Right.
the more willing they are to work with you in general. Or if you're having a problem, they're more willing. They're like to, forgive you for the problem, because you were communicating to them up front in the entire time.
Right. Work the issue, but communicate.
Right.
And that's kind of the challenge, is that when you are dealing with any kind of an issue or problem, right? Whether it's something's not working, something's not synchronized, right? It's a simple, like some sort of a fix that you as a business don't know how to do, right? And you don't want to throw it into a black hole and hear nothing back for 2 days.
Right.
Right. Like that's the wrong answer, right? You need something that gives you some assurance that the issue is being worked. Someone responsible is looking into it, and that you as a business owner have, I'm going to use a term which I dearly love, one throat to choke, right? So, which is me.
Yeah.
It is the reach out, like grab someone, like what the F is going on with this, right? So, and one of the things that I learned, and there's a lot of my history I point to, but it's when an incident happens, there's a lot of stuff like that people are trying to go work, and yet there's a reporting requirement, right? Like the business owner wants to know, I want to know, there's a ton of
right.
Their customers want to know, and so
everybody's involved.
Everybody starts to become involved. And one of the greatest lessons I ever learned from like incident management, like in the national security space that I learned, is that when that starts to happen, like hierarchies flatten, right? And like if you have an incident with, like, let's say hoof and mouth disease, right, in the Midwest, right? Cows are getting sick and like stuff is happening, right? And it's a huge disaster. The like media is spinning out of control, right? And what you do not want to have happen, if you are trying to actively manage this incident, you do not want the Secretary of Homeland Security coming in and counting the number of dead cows in Farmer Brown's field.
Right.
Waste of his time, waste of yours time, waste of everybody else's time. What you want to be able to do is point the Secretary of Homeland Security to, like, can you talk to Department of Commerce about the cattle's futures market and what we're communicating about, right? So, give people a sense of direction in what you're doing, but also give your staff space so they can problem solve and not communicate, right? And that's kind of the biggest challenge in my space, and it's one of the reasons I really like it, which is that the part of my job I really enjoy is giving my folks space to work the problem. And when there's an incident that starts to arise and you see it coming, you see the urgent emails coming from the CEO about, and
right.
Thankfully they're rare, but when they come, it's like, and they go straight to the technician because they're used to the technician.
They're used to working with them.
Right. And I tell them, elevate it to me, I take over that. You focus on this. I'm going to focus on communicating with that person because you need to be working on this. I need to be like handling this part of it. And so the result is that you solve the problem a lot faster. So, yeah.
Yeah, you're giving the experts time to work, and you're the buffer guy, the liaison between the expert and the...
Right, the buffer guy. And then also when you're working with your staff, like communicating that calm, you're not panicked either. Like it's work the issue, right? But also being aware if there's like any kind of a thing where it's like, you're seeing they're getting a little burned out.
Right.
Right. Go take a break.
Yeah.
Go take a walk. Right. You're not actually helping at this point. So, I mean, those are rare, but people like to know that. I mean, most of the issues that we deal with day to day are not that. It is, I need a password reset. I got locked out of my system. So a lot of the stuff that we deal with day to day is just getting people back up,
Just
Right.
getting them working.
Getting them working. Like,
Yeah.
so they're not spending an hour trying to figure it out. Like they just send us a ticket and within, a short amount of time, they're back up. And that's what the business owners like really want to know.
Yeah, that makes sense. So that is very helpful. For a guy like me, I don't really consider myself any sort of knowledgeable person about IT at all. So, when I hear, phrases like uptime and stuff like that, I always want to know what that means. And so I think that explanation was super helpful for me in understanding that. And I'm sure for people who are listening, that's going to be helpful for them to understand that as well. So I really appreciate that. That was good. So, you got this franchise, you got some help from a family member, your background and what kind of helped you get into it, which is pretty neat. You said that you had expertise in like bringing the business in. And I think that's, for a lot of us who are starting businesses or run businesses, that might be the opposite experience that a lot of people have,
Right.
where we are the, experience in delivering the product or, doing things like that. We're not necessarily experts in bringing the business in. And that's the biggest challenge.
Correct.
So how was that beneficial for you when you started this franchise? Because it seems like to me like that would be a huge advantage.
So many businesses start because someone is really, really good at something technically, right? And so they're like, and in a lot of cases, they're working for someone else. They're working, and some of it is like, I can't believe this moron, right? Or, whatever is able to make money doing this. I can do this better. I'm better at this. Or in some cases, they come into it organically. I have a lot of people turning to me for this. I mean, God, I may as well just, kind of start doing my own thing. Right. And there's an old line about working like in the business, working on the business, kind of thing. The first challenge of any management is delegation. Right. And
for sure.
It'll just be faster if I do it. Stop yourself. Your people won't learn. You will not be able to delegate to them more and more. Yes, I get you. It's not to the exacting standard that you have for how you would solve this thing, but like, and so, and even with my staff, I tell them like, I don't want 100, give me an 80% solution, right? Because if they try to give me 100% solution, it's going to take too long and like, So working with folks to like, and it's one of my favorite things I learned is that like developing staff and trusting them and delegating down, right? Not just giving them responsibility, but the authority to make a decision, right? So being able to push that down so that I'm not responsible for the technical. You've got this. Yeah, you're going to mess some stuff up. My God, I mess stuff up all the time, right? So like give them that space, that ability to, go make a mistake, right? And it's the communication back and forth so that you can get it down there. And then when you're moving into the marketing and the selling and that kind of stuff, right, you're able to kind of transition. And one of the funny things that I learned, so first sales job I had was I was 19 years old. And I went and I found a job. It was selling these lifetime sorts of things for these RV parks like on the East Coast. Right?
Okay.
I was like, and so they sent me to the Poconos. It was a 3-day thing. It was like an immersive like boot camp. There was like Zig Ziglar's Art of Closing the Deal, or not art, but it was was Art of it's a Trump thing, but basically how to close a deal, high pressure tactics kind of stuff. And what I found later on is that in a lot of other businesses where it's more business to business, that stuff not only doesn't work, it backfires.
Right.
And what I learned was that there was a different approach you have to do in that line of work. And so, and the funny thing is, a lot of people think that Well, a salesperson, someone like that, they have to be extroverted.
Yeah, I think that's a common thought for sure.
It's a misconception.
Yeah.
Absolutely misconception, right? Some of the best salespeople I have ever run across are introverts. And the reason that they are so good is that they're listeners and they ask questions.
Right.
And when it comes to a client and you're trying to pull them out, right? Like right now, there are some fundamentals, right? You do your homework before you go in. You know the client, you know the business you're in. You're not asking, so you're at this address and this is your phone number and this is your, no.
Right.
You've done like, right.
You know that you should know who you're talking to.
You should know who you're talking to at least a little bit. Like, right. And you go in a little bit prepared because you're trying to get past that to what's the problem you were asking me to solve, right? And so the really wonderful thing about introverts is they're really good at listening and they're really good at like, so what I hear you saying is this, so I have that right. And they're thinking about your business and they're trying to look around the corner from their perspective, which is different from yours as the owner. And they start asking these questions that's making the owner think. And they're like, I hadn't thought of it this way, right? And they're really good at developing kind of these one-on-one relationships. And so one of the things I found is that, engineers, introverted people, if you just give them a little bit of direction for like eliciting stuff and then shutting up
yeah,
and letting the client talk, like you can pull this stuff in and you can win the work, right? Like in a lot of instances, it's the extrovert and the talker who will try to continue to sell after they've closed the deal.
Yeah,
and
keep going and going.
My God, right? So
yeah, I think that's a good point. I think especially in B2B world, high pressure sales tactics just are not the way to go. They just don't work. It's a relationship business, and people like to work with people they like. Most of us don't like people who are applying a lot of pressure in sales. And
right.
So, I think that's a good point. I've always viewed myself as more of an introvert as well, and,
yes,
never great at sales or things like that. But, I do think that I'm better at, developing relationships and, friendships with people. And I think that helps me sell, my work and what I do and things like that more than, having some brilliant offer or some whatever the case may be, right?
right.
Act now
Act
kind of
now,
thing,
right.
24 hours left is all, and I mean, my business, that doesn't work. But relationships do sell.
They do. And so you go into it with a couple of thoughts, right? And if you are a natural introvert, which I am, like I can play an extrovert, but I'm more naturally introverted. And one of the things that, just because you're an introvert doesn't mean you're shy.
That's true. Right. Yeah.
Right. And it's also gives you the opportunity, instead of just talking the talk, to go fill the space. There's a couple like little things that you can do which are really good at eliciting, right? So one of my favorites is, telling my managers or other people that I've worked with over the years, like, be comfortable with the silence because
right.
they'll fill it. They'll fill it with information. Like if you go, so tell me a little bit about like XYZ. And you just wait a long time, like they'll fill it with all kinds of stuff, right? And you're pulling this information like very gently out of them. Like, well, how do you think like, what's the time pressure that you're under? Like, when are you trying to solve this by? Right. And they'll like, and again, you use a little bit of that silence and they'll start to fill it. And as like the introvert, you're just taking down notes and like visualizing the problem. Okay. So what I see you say, and it's the mirroring back, like I see you saying this, I see you like, So help me understand the time frame. If you don't get it solved by what date, does anything happen to you? Does anything happen to the business? And there's also good ways to like go identify stakeholders. Am I talking to someone who's been tasked with like dealing with the problem, but they don't actually own it? Because like if it blows up, like, yeah, that's someone else's problem.
Yeah.
Right. And so there's some good advanced tricks that you can learn about that. But that inclination to being an introvert, don't think for a second that you're not a good salesman. Right. Your strength lies in, you can be very confident as an introvert, right? You can go.
Absolutely.
So yeah, that's one of the biggest like superpowers an introvert has is understanding how the business process, how does your stuff work, right? Timing. Is something going to blow up if you don't make this decision like, in the next 3 months? Or is it like, well, we're just window shopping? Oh, that's really good to know. Right?
Yeah,
so
absolutely. Yeah, the introvert's going to, get the questions, get the answers. They're going to hear the problem, where an extrovert could just miss it. They talk right over it and miss that from somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah. I get that. That makes perfect sense to me as someone who thinks that they're more of an introvert than they are an extrovert. I think back to my days in school and in college and stuff. And, I have an engineering background. I sat through lots of engineering classes.
Right.
And so, I have that natural tendency to listen and absorb and hear and not talk back or talk out and things like that. And, it was that way in school for me, during lectures and things. And, it's that way now for me in business as well. It's like a lot of listening, a lot of absorbing, a lot of trying to understand the problem before you understand what the solution can be.
Well, and there's some really fun techniques that you can use as someone who's comfortable. Like when you go into it with a mindset, I'm going to be comfortable with silence. I'm going to be comfortable with like a vacuum of space and letting someone fill it. And I have a little bit of background, like as a consumer of like, and I never did like, intelligence community kind of like activity per se, but I was a consumer of like, intelligence, products. And one of the things that I learned about elicitation, right, how it is that you get information like out of people is to, doing a lot of the stuff that I mentioned. But you can also really subtly like turn the tables on them.
What do you mean?
So like, because it goes to, if you go to like the BNI kind of thing, like, well, tell me about your business. Tell me what you were trying to do. Like in engaging with them in terms of like, don't talk about me, right? I, me, my, mine, right? Talk to them about their business. And so what you're trying to do is this, like, tell me about your, how are you trying to do? And one of the subtle things that you can start to do is that if you're going in and they know that I need an IT managed services provider and I've talked to 3 other companies, blah, blah, blah. So they're already doing this.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I have a couple little simple, I pull it from like the intelligence community, but it's like elicitation questions about like, so is there someone who's currently providing this to you now?
Yeah.
Yes, no.
Yes, no, maybe.
Yeah, right, yeah. Yes. Okay. So in terms of like, why are you, so, and it's literally the second question. Like, so why are you talking to me?
Finding out,
right?
Are they happy? Are they not happy?
Are they not happy? Like, well, we're required by our board to go compete this every year, but we've always given it back to the incumbent for the last 7 years.
Right.
Why am I even like doing this conversation?
Exactly.
Right? So like and for me as a business owner, like I get it. You're hungry. I've been there. Like, I'm just trying to get money in the door. Like, I understand that, right? And it is the hardest thing in the world when you're hungry and you're like, God, am I going to make payroll? Like, kinds of questions, to like slow your roll, right? Just stop, go into it with a little bit more of a game plan than like, and as you know, right? Every business owner knows this. When you're desperate, boy, it shows.
It does.
Right? And if you can, instead of being desperate, oh, me this, me that, me, right? Go and like, why you? Why should I take you on? You have someone doing this already. You have this like, right? And what it does is it very subtly turns the tables, and it puts the owner from like, oh, well, like we have, like, and it puts them on sell mode.
Yeah, they're trying to sell themselves
to you. Like, and so you just get a treasure trove of information out of them. And if you find out, like, we're recompeting this because we're required to, as I've found on a couple of occasions, it's a 15-minute phone call and I'm out. And I tell them, if you're ever unsatisfied with your incumbent, right, I get price you're concerned about. Like, I'm not going to spend oodles of my overhead hours slaving over a proposal that you can take and go walk over to your incumbent. Like, they sold you this for this. Why aren't you doing it? Right. And so like, I've helped you with leverage against your incumbent.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. I'm not going to do that.
And if you don't have to do that, there's no point. If you don't have a chance of winning the business to start with.
Like, and I've actually been that blunt with prospects on a phone call. Like, it's like we're doing this every year. I'm like, are you fundamentally unsatisfied? Like, what's the reason? Like, and I would ask, like, how are they doing? Are you they're pretty good. Okay. like I'm feeling
I'm not sure why I'm here.
My probability of win is going way down. Right. So so that to me is particularly helpful. It's always my advice to anyone, business owner, salesperson. And I still talk about, like, as I mentioned earlier, had my first sales training when I was 19. I'm like 56 going on 57, done a lot of business development. It's one of my favorite concepts from like professional sports. My wife is a professional violinist, right? Is at a certain point, you become a student of the game, right?
Sure.
I am still learning. I am still like figuring this out. Like, and I love talking to other people about the things that they're trying to go do, because it adds to my arsenal. It like helps me avoid pitfalls. Like, and I think when you are a business owner, I get that you are a subject matter expert in what you do. So first step, pull yourself out from that. Second step is to like, I have to engage with bringing business in the door. My people execute, right? I got to maintain like the financial picture of my company, make sure we're on an even keel, but it's really on me.
Yeah.
Right. To go find the stuff. And then once you're in that space, and I think for a lot of people who are technically minded and they come into that space, it's not natural.
It's not. No, I think it's like, it's hard to pull yourself out of the natural thing, which is delivering the product, showing your expertise there, and trusting and delegating somebody else to do it right. Which is,
right.
I put right in quotes there because,
right.
the way somebody else does it is probably going to be different, or maybe not the same the way you do it, but it's still acceptable.
Sure.
And then, seeing the bigger picture of things, and allowing them to do their work. I think that's super hard for people who don't come from that background, and you see it in the trades, a lot, right? And,
yes.
Your plumbers, your HVAC guys, your roofing guys, a lot of these guys that are running their companies, they started them because they were the experts in doing that thing.
Yes.
And not necessarily the expert in running the business.
Running the business. And then there's a couple different things that when you start relying on younger members, right, they're very execution focused, like going and like executing the thing. And one of the largest challenges is bringing someone who's very project management focused into a sales meeting and going, and their first, oh, we can't, oh, that's too hard. Oh, that's going to be expensive. That's like,
right. Yeah.
Right. It's like, stop. Why did we invite this person in here? Like, get them out. Right. And so as the owner, there's also like a certain amount of coaching that you have to do about that sales side, because you've got to go develop your people. You've got to get them to like, I know you know that this is going to be a giant pain in the whatever, and yet you've got to get them across the finish line.
Yeah.
Right. And I need to develop you and say, okay, so John, tell me how you would do this, right, in front of the client. And by the way, having a long conversation with John before going into that meeting about like, oh, we can't do it that way. That's impossible.
Little coaching.
Right. Right. But like also giving one of the great things I learned was you've got to give your younger folks an opportunity to shine. Right. Because they'll learn it too. And then the more they learn, not just the technical side, but a little bit of the sales side, that goes into upselling, that goes into recognize the opportunity. It's the classic problem of a project manager. They say, oh, no one's doing this. No one, why? Where's the wiring going? Like, that's not my job.
Right.
That's not a problem. That's an opportunity. That's an opportunity to go make money, right? So the business owner and the project manager oftentimes view stuff fundamentally differently.
Absolutely.
Right. So
yeah, unless they, spend a lot of time with each other, a lot of time learning from each other, coaching from each other, that kind of stuff. Then they can kind of develop more of a rapport and be on the same page when it comes to that kind of
like
things.
Like, am I viewing as this is like am I trying to control the cost before I've won the work?
Right. Yeah.
So
yeah, that's
win
a different
the work, then work the problem of having
that's
won
a
the
different
work.
mindset too, right? Is I think as business owners we're price conscious a lot when it comes to our proposals, but we do it to a fault where we don't really know what they're wanting to spend or how much they're willing to spend, or that our price is too high. We are our worst own enemies most of the time when it comes to that kind of stuff, because we don't listen, we don't ask the right questions. We assume that our price is too high already, and we're trying to find ways to bring it back down.
You compete against yourself, and so there is an aspect of it that like I've talked about this with friends and others for a number of years. Like sales at a certain point could pull just a ton of lessons from the human intelligence field, right, within the intelligence community. The art of elicitation, the art of like pulling stuff out of people. Like they'll tell you if you give them a chance, right?
Yeah.
So, and it's tricky and it's hard, and I get it. Everybody's different, right? But it's I'm still learning how to do this too. But there's some really cool things that you can do, because business owners give the game away. Like they talk all the time. Like they're willing to go just put it out there because, man, my time is short. Like I gotta here's there's the number I'm looking for.
Right.
Thank you. Say thank you. Like here's my number. Like right or one of the best ones I ever learned was so you got a big deal going on, right? You're going to go do. You got a big proposal. It's coming up, right? High stakes. I'm going to be in front of the client, go present them this, and I've got a number. Okay. How do you know the number is any good? How do you know the client's number?
The only way you know is if you ask. Right.
So one of the brilliant little, and this goes to the franchise. Like, so the franchise, like they have a salesperson who's been doing this stuff for like a couple of decades. And the advice that she gave, which is gold, is right before the proposal meeting itself, which in my line of business, any kind of professional services, you should be doing in person. You should never throw a proposal over the transom. right? Do it in person, right? But the day before, set an appointment, especially if you feel you need to, say, hey, I'm going to give you a rough order of magnitude number, right? I just want to see if I'm in the same stadium.
Right.
Right. Am I close?
You're like priming them a little bit.
Well, a little bit, so that when you get them on the call, it's technically informal, but you're getting, and you throw the number out. I'm at this, right? Probably shaded a little bit high, right? I'm at this. What are you at? I've given you mine. Now give me yours.
Right.
Right. Gee. Actually, and I've had them where it's like, oh, that's actually pretty good. Or in other cases, like, oh man, that's a little high. I thought it was going to be this. Oh, okay. Well, let me go see what I can work, and I'll see you tomorrow.
Right.
Right. Because then when you go into the proposal, you've taken money off the table because now you're meeting their price.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Your odds of winning the work go up stratospherically.
Right.
Right.
And you can make more of a tailored package to kind of, or
Tailored
proposal to, remove this from your proposal.
Because I want to meet your
change
price.
this a little bit. Hey, we can do this. You're going to receive these services a little bit less, but we're going to be at your price.
Right.
But if you want better, you can be at my price.
Right. And options, and maybe we talk about this in 3 months or exactly. Right. And yeah. So
yeah, that makes sense. Do you find yourself like educating your clients a lot on what managed IT services are? As you're, you're selling your proposals, that kind of stuff. Or are the clients that you're working with now familiar with it? They know what they're getting into? Because I imagine there's a lot of businesses out there that have grown and scaled, and all of a sudden they're into these problems they don't know, but they don't know what you like. You have to educate them on what's happening and what they're getting into.
Yeah. So
like what's been your experience in that environment?
Right. So I run across small businesses, right? So call it, 10 to 50 employees, sometimes smaller, right? 10 to 50 employees. Like there are 3 kinds of clients I run across. The first of which is a personal favorite, is where they've had a managed service provider before.
So they know what they're getting into.
They know what they're getting into. And oh, by the way,
they're already paying that bill.
I know what I'm getting into because a lot of their stuff is already figured out. Like there's not a lot of like, you get behind the walls of like your house and you're like, oh my God, there's mold there. There's no like, so when you're coming in behind another company, and it's because of a lot of times service issues, like we send in a ticket and like it takes them 2 days to respond to a password reset. Oh my, wow. Okay. Right. So those are my favorite. There's not a lot of surprises. Yeah, there can be some old stuff. There can be some things that they did a little, strange and whatnot. Right. But, those are the easier ones to pull in. All right. So that's scenario A. Scenario B is where they had a guy. This is the roofing company's version of Chuck in a truck.
Okay.
Right. I got a guy. Like, he's great. He knows IT. Yeah. Like, and even some of them who have their own businesses, but it's really just that person.
Yeah.
Right. I compare it to like, we've got 300 something companies, like, and we all compare notes with how each other's doing stuff. And when you've got this guy, and in many, I can't even count the number of times this has happened. We come in and the person's been doing this for a long time.
Sure.
Right. They got gray hair. Like it's just, it's Fred and his little IT sort of like bunch of stuff. And for whatever reason, client's unhappy. Stuff's not working. Stuff's breaking down. Right. Or, Fred got a big line of work that's not these guys and is suddenly unhappy.
Now you stretched real thin.
Yep. And so you then get in, and those are the ones that I get the most concerned about, because you get in behind the scenes and you're like, what the hell?
What did he do?
No, you see it, you're like, why did they do it that way? That's like from 20 years ago. You would never do it that way, right? They've just left all kinds of vulnerabilities open. They've done this, right? But they've also hidden a lot of stuff from clients.
Oh, right.
They don't know the IT side. They don't know what's going on behind the scenes. They assume everything is fine.
Sure.
Right? And then you get in there and you're like, oh my God, we have so much work to do to go and like fix you because like, so didn't know if you know this, but like your IT provider, they have a, Microsoft tenant and they've put every single one of their clients on the same tenant, which means if they got hacked, they're all screwed, including you. Right. And so it's like, I mean, you see a lot of like really sloppy habits and stuff like that, which then you have to go fix. And by the way, explain to your clients, like,
you're going to have to pay a little bit more to get this fixed, right? Because now they're going to have to do some licensing and other things.
Right. Like, or another one, my God, you're a business. You've got like 20, 30 employees, but you have all of your machines are like 5+ years old running Windows Home Edition.
Yeah.
So there's a lot you got to go undo. So that's scenario 2. And then scenario 3 is it's someone who was dual-hatted, right? So it's an office manager, someone like that. Like they were given IT responsibilities because they were a millennial Gen Z like kind of person, right? Like they were cursed with competence, right? Like, and then they started getting in over their head. Like, I got to manage a server now. Like, so in there, I do like those because they're just more than happy to go talk to someone who knows, like, I'm in over my head. Can you throw me a life preserver?
Right.
Right. So
they know they need help.
Yeah. Right? Hard to talk to the owner because the owner's just like, yeah, give it to Fred. Like he'll handle it. So those are like the ones I have the most fear about is like, I got an IT guy.
Right.
So yeah, those are the ones.
That makes sense to me.
So yeah, they're all a little bit different.
I gotcha. So like, when you're out there, looking for work, trying to find new jobs, bring, revenue into your business, what is like the, obviously it's the client who has the managed IT services who's not happy is the best one you're looking for. But, what kind of businesses, are you talking about? If there's somebody out there listening, who, might have a business, they don't know, do I need managed IT services or not? Or maybe they are, paying it already, but they're not necessarily happy. Like what kind of businesses are you usually working with?
So they are, thankfully, as I learned very quickly, they're self-selecting. I don't need to sell anybody on like managed services. Like it's hey, do you need like help with this? Oh, you need help with this. Like you've got 3 people. Like no, we got it, dude. I need your help. Like, right. So it's where the IT has hit a critical mass with the company. We're like, someone needs to be doing this because I don't have time. My people don't have time. My office manager doesn't have time. Right. Could someone do this, please? Right. One of my favorite ones is where you talk to a business owner or someone like, I just need it to effing blah, 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 like freaking work.
It just needs to happen.
Like when you hit that like frustration level, it's like, you're a client.
Right.
Right. Because it's not the first time.
Sure. Yeah. That makes sense.
So that to me is the sweet spot, right? If it's a 3-person, 4-person company, like we're thinking about it, like I'm more than happy to talk to you about your path and I'll like help set you up so that you don't get locked into some infrastructure that you don't know is going to mess you up when you get larger.
Right.
Right. So like that's one of my favorite conversations to go have is like, by the way, don't be on GoDaddy. Right. For your Office 365 stuff. Right? So little things like that. Let's get you off that now. Let's set you up now because I get it. It's easy. You did it at first, but when you start to scale, the longer
then
you
run
put,
into problems.
you're going to run into problems. And by the way, the longer you put it off, the more expensive it is. Like
Right.
anything. Right?
Yeah, for sure.
So, yeah.
Okay. Well, that's cool. Like, I feel like I've learned a lot already today. Like, we've had so many conversations, Paul, in the past, and like I, always, have an idea of what you're doing and how you're doing it, but like, it's still one of those things that's just still a little bit muddy in my mind all the time, right? Like for some reason, like it just doesn't always, click. Because it's like I don't have any intimate involvement with managed IT services. My business is my business is too small for it, and that kind of stuff, and things like that. So I think it's been awesome to learn exactly what you're doing, and some of the techniques you have. I did want to talk to you about just a little bit about your background, just a little bit, because I find it really interesting. But I've got here that you were an infantryman in the Army.
Yes.
So you're a veteran-owned business now. But you did some stuff with war games in the past, and it says you've even done stuff with NASA's satellites and things like that. I just think that stuff is super cool. So like, I don't know what you're allowed to share about the work that you did in that kind of stuff, but like, if there's anything, fun or neat that I just like to learn about that kind of stuff,
So absolutely. So when I was very young and I did a couple of years of college and decided that I wanted to do a little bit of time in the military. My dad had been in the military, as an enlisted guy. And I kind of felt that calling and that sort of, wanting to go that route. And, then went and did that 4 years, enlisted infantry sort of person. I will be the first one to tell you, I didn't see combat. I was a very mediocre infantryman, right? But like, I learned a lot. Like, in my running joke is I got way more out of the infantry than maybe the infantry ever got out of me. But as a result, like, I was able to go and I got a strong interest in military history and strategy and stuff. And then went to Georgetown, did, national security, like graduate degree, and then got some of the best, most interesting work, right? Which, war games for the Pentagon, getting involved with the intelligence community, doing, that kind of stuff, which I greatly enjoyed. But then also pulled to the entrepreneurial side. I got pulled into a little startup federal contractor and wound up doing stuff at NASA. I will tell you right now, I felt like the dumbest person at NASA, wonderful experience though. Like, I spent like good 3.5 years, like at NASA, like at a place where they made satellites. Like,
okay.
Right. And
did you get to talk to aliens?
No.
No. Oh man.
Unless you include NASA scientists, but that's so.
Scientists and engineers, they're a whole different thing.
Whole different. Yes. So, but then did work. Homeland Security. I did 24/7 National Operations Center with like intelligence and like other sorts of entities preparing like briefings and whatnot. In a long time, so, but in a lot of cases, I was not a federal employee. I was a little bit, but there were, most of the time I was a contractor, and I was a contractor with small businesses. Right. And so I got very familiar with, and one of them, which was a startup, like there was 3 of us and we had nothing. Right. And trying to go get federal work. So, going and starting my own business, doing IT stuff, like not my first rodeo.
Sure.
Right. And so that pathway, and then, and as I moved up, I was a director, I was a vice president, I all that kind of stuff. Then, like, I grew up in Louisville. Louisville's my hometown, right? I can actually trace my ancestors. If you've heard of a place called Cox's Creek.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I got ancestors that go back.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah. So, like, wanting to come back to, like, kind of the home stomping ground and, raise a family here. And, so it's been like the being able to leverage a lot of that experience also. And I think anyone who's known me for a while, like one of the first things like I hope people get is that like I'm not the smartest guy, right? I may come across that way, but I'll be the first to tell you like I have a lot of blank spots. I'm always trying to learn, right? But like when you come into it with that perspective of like, and it goes to me to the success of a business, right? It's one of the greatest things I ever learned was surround yourself with people better than you.
Yeah, that's really good advice.
And so, yeah, it's to me, it's you can go into all walks of life, in the national security world and whatnot. But when it comes to building like a good organization, right, giving your people the chance to grow. Wonderful book from, I don't know how long ago it was, but it was, three kind of key things for your folks: autonomy, mastery, purpose, right? So give them autonomy to go make decisions, give them mastery over their domain to go learn, give them a purpose. Why are we doing this? Right. And if you can go give them that, they will surprise you with how good they will get.
Well, I think that's like, most employees don't get that in their job or their careers in most places. So if you find an employee and you can give them those three things, then they're going to be super happy because they've never got that in the past. Right. And then when they're happy, they just perform well.
And there's an old phrase about like, I think it was I forget his name. Was it Daniel Drucker or something like that? He said that culture eats strategy for breakfast, right? And if you've got a good culture as a business, where you give people space, you're accommodating, like you hold people accountable, right? But one of my favorite phrases I actually learned from my wife, which was judgment, not or like no judgment, just pressure, right? And so that people like they're okay to make mistakes. They're okay to make, screw stuff up. Favorite other phrase, come to me early and you have an ally.
Yeah, for sure.
come to me late and you have a critic.
Yep.
So
I've lived that in my past for sure. In previous careers, where you're afraid to go to somebody early because you think you're going to get in trouble. You wait, you have all this anxiety. The longer you wait, the worse it gets. In reality, most of your managers, or like in your case as a business owner, you want to help. Your job's to help solve problems.
I want to help them get better, and also to like, I even came up with a technician's like creed of, and one of the top ones, I had like 8 things out, but one of them was like, we all get better together. Like, don't try to solve a problem in isolation. Don't take everything on your own shoulders. Share your problems early. We all bring different perspectives. We all bring different sorts of things, right? And when you bring it up early, we all own it. We all are helping you with the problem. If you're sitting there trying to go do it in isolation, you're setting yourself up for failure.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
Yeah. That's good advice, not just for employees, but just for business owners in general, because there's plenty of other people you could take your problems to, whether it be a fellow business owner, it could be your client, if there's a problem with delivering the product to them, or, whatever the case may be. You could have a mastermind group, right? You got problems you need to take. The sooner you bring them to people, the sooner you can, find those people who are going to help you solve those problems, and the better off you're going to be. So, yeah, I think that's really good advice. So just, to wrap things up, Paul, I guess, anybody who wants to find you, where can they go to find Paul Cox, where can they go to find TeamLogic IT Louisville, that kind of stuff?
Yeah. So if you, for example, when, TeamLogic IT, right, kind of search engine, we'll start tracking you. Like that's kind of like, one of the glories of the franchise is like, you'll start, finding us. But one of the easiest ones is, I give people my email address, but I think it's easier to give them a mobile number. A lot of us operate like off of text messages and stuff. And I got myself a really nice mobile number.
Okay.
Which is area code 502-205, right? So backwards, 502-205-0000, right? And it's funny because it looks like it's like a spam call, right? But it's actually my mobile number.
Yeah.
So if people like text me, like I'll get it, or they call me and it'll come straight to me. So.
I always, almost every time I text you, I look at that number. I'm like, this has got to be the office. It's got to be the office. Like,
Nope.
I'm not going to get Paul
legit.
when I said this.
It's a mobile number.
But I look back and you answer every time. But I always think, I'm like,
that's not real.
Yeah, that's not it. But it is. So yeah, it works on me. It tricks me every time. But that's great. So, well, Paul, I really appreciate you, stopping by today. Explaining, what you guys do. Talking about your sales process, and I had a fantastic time.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. Been wanting to do this for a long time. And I will also add for anyone who's watching, and who's a business owner, you should talk to Carl, especially about getting on the podcast. So always, we've had some one-on-ones before. Always a great conversation. Glad I get to do this with an audience.
There you go.
Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely.
All right. Thanks, Paul.
Yeah, you bet. All right.